Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara. This is Barbara Talks Some More. This is my second channel, so be sure to subscribe to this channel as well as my original channel called Barbara Talks. Over here I go over public figure natal chart readings, synastry readings, and also whatever else comes through to talk about. And on my original channel I go over astrology, so in terms of placements in your chart, I go over metaphysical things over there, and I like to go live over there as well. Now my original channel Barbara Talks, I also have it organized in playlists. Okay, so if there's something you guys would like to learn about, you guys can probably find it under one of the playlists. Now, if you guys would like your own reading, so natal chart reading, synastry reading, progressed natal chart reading, mini natal chart reading, mini synastry reading, okay, the information for all of that is in the description box below. You guys go on my website, you go under the readings tab, okay, you guys can select which reading you guys would like, and an email window should pop up. Okay, guys, send me an email and we will go from there. So if the email window does not pop up for whatever reason, okay, you guys can actually find the email at the bottom of that page. Okay, you guys can email me there. Now, the format of my readings is very similar to these ones here. Okay, these readings here are closer to my minis, okay, my mini natal chart and mini synastry readings, where I go over whatever jumps out at me when I first pull up the charts. And of course, you guys can always ask questions. So, if there's something specific you guys want me to focus on in the minis, absolutely. Same thing with the main natal chart reading as well. If you have questions, you can always let me know. And then in those readings, the in-depth ones, I go over absolutely every single thing that I see. Okay, so those are pretty much my readings. Now let's go ahead and jump into today. Okay, today we're going to be looking at Hayden Panettiere's natal chart reading. Okay, really interesting to me. Okay, her last name to me looks French. Okay, even though online I googled it, it says that it is an Italian last name. Now with these readings, everything that comes through is always, of course, alleged and for educational purposes only. I do not know any of these people, so these are just things that I'm hooking into based on the information that we have. Is the birth information right? Is it not right? That's kind of like, always up for debate, but I go based off of what we have for the birth information and the information that I get from that. Now, that being said as well, if I pick up on something in someone's natal chart and maybe you have the same energy, doesn't always have to mean it's going to play out that way for you, right? There is still free will, at least a range of it, right? In terms of your own natal chart, depends. Do you go into the shadow of the energy? Do you go into the light version of the energy? And also there's transits, and there's so many things going on in a natal chart. There's up to 40,000 pieces of information I heard once. Okay, so again, the information is always changing. So that being said, right, the synthesis, right, of how all of these energies are going to play together is going to be different for everybody, right? Everybody is unique. So again, you can take it as, a general overview, unless you have a certain energy taking place in your own natal chart. For Hayden, I have her birth information here as August 21st, 1989. Okay, now here is where it gets interesting. Some websites said 9:20 a.m., which would make her Libra rising, which I think is closer to probably the accurate time of birth. Here it says C rating for everything, really. Okay, so that's one of the times. Another one of the websites here had her as 3:15. Okay, that one would put her as a Sag rising. Not really feeling it, and it would also put her moon in Taurus. I don't feel that either. I feel like her moon was actually in Aries, okay, based on the transits, right? Because we do have Saturn transiting Aries right now. And then another one of the websites, okay, basically had her time as 3 p.m. right? So, we have 3 different times here. I'm going to go with the Libra rising because she looks like a Libra rising to me with that sweet look, right? That sweetness, that's always going to be a Libra rising. But again, take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to be looking also at aspects and all of this. And also, I feel like she might actually be the Libra rising is because it's going to put her Mercury, Venus, and Mars all into the 12th house. I feel like that is accurate. Another thing I always like to tell you guys is when I'm recording this, so today is August 20th, 2026, one day actually before her birthday, okay? So she crossed out a few days before her birthday. Basically the eclipse hit her, okay, is kind of what's going on here. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff going on with Leo. We had Lionsgate, and then we had that eclipse, right? So that is kind of what affected her, I would say. Now, that being said, even though we did have that eclipse taking place, there's no need to fear, right? It doesn't mean, that's always going to happen when there is an eclipse. This is what I'm saying, right? You got to look at the whole chart and you have to see everything that is going on. Now, what's interesting here is that there is no cause of death yet determined, okay? It says no signs of trauma, and they're still waiting for the toxicology testing and studies, okay? So by the time I post this, I will try to be faster with the editing, okay? But anyways, by the time I post this, maybe they'll have information out there. I do feel like she crossed out from drugs, okay? That's kind of what I'm picking up on. I do feel like it's substances. I don't think that it was at her own hand, though. That's where it gets interesting. I do feel like either it was laced with something, like there is a male figure here, allegedly, in my own opinion, that I'm seeing psychically that is involved in this, right? So either, again, the drugs that she was taking were either laced or she didn't know, or something was slipped into like her drink. I'm seeing some sort of substance here, okay? I do feel like it's drugs. I do feel like more so probably drugs like laced with something. It's very much like she did not know this or she didn't expect this or something of that sort. Okay, I do keep saying, you know how when they say like fentanyl, like even if you have like one little dot more, okay, it basically takes the person out. I'm not saying that that's what it was, okay, but it's something here that was laced with something else that she had taken. I do see a cup, okay, so I'm curious to know, it's like if she took something and then drank some water, or if it's like was something slipped into her drink, but it does deal with substances, drugs, and her not knowing, okay, so I don't think that this was definitely not intentional, but I don't think she expected it, and I don't think it was her time to cross out yet either. Here's where it gets interesting. I saw some clips of her. It's interesting. I know of her, like I know her face, like she is familiar to me. She's been in a lot of those like cutesy, you know, like teen types of movies, right? She's been a child star from young, so probably someone that got sold out allegedly from a young age. Curious to know if her parents were either interested in being involved in the entertainment industry, or if again they somehow had ties and connections to the entertainment industry, because I saw this clip of her when she was like so little and she's like talking, she had like all this confidence to like talk, which like to me kind of gave the vibe of like adultified, parentified type of vibe, right? Like someone who's like very mature at like such a young age. I've been seeing clips of her because recently she started speaking out, okay, about being trafficked on a boat. You guys can look up those videos for yourselves if it hasn't popped up onto your feeds yet, okay? So a lot of things like with Hayden to me kind of seem obvious. I'm not sure if people are just like generally feeling this or hooking into this already, right? So I can't really be like I'm psychically hooking into this. Like to me it's kind of like, okay, it's obvious that it's this, but you know, I do feel like again she's starting to speak out, you know, like that they didn't like that, obviously. I think in her book there's something that I saw about a book where she like named a person but like used an alias or something of that sort. I do think that she was like starting to garner like the strength to maybe even actually start naming names or something of that sort, and then unfortunately, right, they kind of tried to prevent that. Now, here's what's going on with Saturn in terms of like the Saturn transits. You know, typically like with the actual transits themselves is 3-degree orb, right? In terms of like the charts, I am pretty lenient, right, when it comes to transits. You know, it's pretty strict with that, right? So 3-degree orb for like the transit to actually count. So you know, the Saturn transit didn't really hit her moon just yet, okay, but it did hit her vertex, which I find really interesting because vertex is a fated event, okay? And here's the thing, like I don't do any sort of death astrology or predictions about death. I can only speculate just like based on the charts, but in general, like because Saturn is in general in Aries, right, it would have been hitting her moon eventually, it would have been hitting her sun eventually, right, like trining the sun as well, okay? It's opposing the Venus, or at least it opposed the Venus, right? So this opposition, okay, and again it's like past the Venus at this point, but basically like with the Saturn opposing Venus transit, like there was restrictions in her love life. Maybe there were like struggles or something of that sort taking place, frustrations, okay, in the love life as well. But really this transit was kind of giving her, I guess you could say, even a hard time or like a harder time. I do feel like this is now actually psychically what I'm hooking into. I do feel like they're going to try to come out and be like she was having mental health struggles and like all these things. I don't think that that's true. I do think another person was involved in this. I don't think maybe the person was trying to be malicious. Like people, because their own energy fields can be open, they can then be agents of the dark as well, right? Like I don't think it's something that was like premeditated or someone was like, you know, they're like out to get her on purpose. I do think that this is like someone who's being used as like a pawn of the agent of the dark, right? That basically had an involvement in the death here, okay? I don't think it's going to come out that way. They're going to try to be like, oh, she had mental health struggles and like all of these things, right? They might try to say like she was struggling with addiction and all these things, okay? But I don't think so. I don't actually feel really full-blown addiction, okay, in her energy field. Like maybe she would take something sometimes, but you know, there's something going on here. I do feel like also she was probably having trouble sleeping. I do feel like she kind of felt this psychically. I'm kind of hooking into like, I do feel like toward all of this like kind of taking place, like leading up to it, she was kind of feeling uneasy. She was feeling off. I'm seeing the masculine that's involved in this. It's very clear who this person is. Like I'm seeing him, okay, in my mind's eye, okay, but again, I don't want to put any names out there or any like blames or anything of that sort. Of course, it's all alleged, but he is involved in this. It could even be he was hitting her self-esteem. There could be that too, okay, that's taking place here, kind of lowering her vibration, lowering it down. But he, whether it's directly or indirectly, I don't think he knowingly did this. Like I don't think it was something like that, but I do see him being involved in this. I'm not sure if he was like, let's do substances together, you know what I mean, like something like that, where it wasn't like he's doing it directly but he's still kind of an agent of the dark, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to put paranoia out there, you guys. It's just kind of what I'm seeing psychically. Like I'm clearly seeing this person, like I'm seeing him clearly. I'm seeing the two of them. I'm seeing them in the living room psychically, right? They are there, right? It's them two. It's her and this this masculine. When I say masculine, it's literally a man. I'm seeing him. Okay. It's kind of obvious to me who this person is. So this person was involved, whether again, it's directly or indirectly, or, you know, something going on with like, again, I keep getting even negging or like hitting her self-esteem or something of that sort. Okay. It's kind of what I'm getting, right? So again, he could have lowered her vibration or frequency down, and, you know, maybe she was upset and then, you know, she takes something, right? Or again, maybe he went to go purchase the substance and it was bad. It's just like, it's a series of events, but he is involved energetically. And again, he's being more so used as a pawn because his energy field is down. This is what I'm always trying to say. You know, you can do all the work on yourself, right? You can try to close your energy field, but you still need to have discernment of who you allow around you and who you allow into your energetic space, right? Because the other person could then be lowering their guard down, their energetic guard down through their own addictions and issues and whatever. And then that could affect you as well. But it's always up to you still to see like why you allow this person into your life. So yes, there's a masculine here. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing here. So basically the eclipse had passed, right? But again, we are in between eclipses here. The eclipse was on the 12th, right? So again, it can't be like it's exactly the eclipse, right, that affected this. But I do think, again, even with the eclipse going on, it's hitting the Leos in general, right? In between two eclipses, I do think that the energies are probably getting to her. I'm even seeing Jupiter is in Leo here, okay, in terms of the transit. Here's what's interesting. Everyone talks about how Jupiter is such a great energy, right? And it's like a benevolent energy. But Jupiter basically blows up whatever area it touches, right? So it's like there could have been issues going on here, right? In terms of, again, something that, you know, could have been maybe a small issue, could have been blown up to be a huge issue or something of that sort, right? So I do think there was like personal things probably that were going on in her life, right? That were like creating the stress, I do think, energetically, okay? Is kind of what I'm picking up on. I do feel like psychically, again, my own opinion, allegedly, I do feel like she started to feel like she was either, again, being watched. Like there is this intuition of her. I keep seeing her looking over her shoulder, like when she's out and about and so on and so forth. And again, she did start slowly getting pretty vocal. Now, can, you know, I say that this is exactly what the issue was? No, but I'm pretty sure a lot of us are thinking that that's what it was, right? That's kind of what I was saying at the beginning of this video, right? Where it's like, to me, it's kind of obvious that this is what it is. So that's kind of what I'm getting there. Now, you know what's interesting in her chart? Okay, when I look at her chart, she's actually got a grand trine, but it's like, it's not fully in fire. This is what's fascinating to me, okay? So basically the grand trine is the sun. Okay, then it goes to the moon. Then it's basically the Uranus, but the Uranus here, okay, is at 1 degree in Capricorn, right? So it's like just short of a grand trine. Usually to me, it looks like a full-blown grand trine, right? But in terms of, again, you know, astrology, you know, it wouldn't be fully a grand fire trine because Uranus had entered, right, already into the earth sign, right, of Capricorn. Otherwise, it would have been in Sag and it would have been like the full-blown grand trine, right? But it still stands out to me, right? So again, another powerful person, another powerful being. It's in fire. It's the energy of, again, someone who was like passionate and like, you know, maybe passionate about their goals and so on and so forth. But again, Uranus is in Capricorn, right? So it's not a full-blown grand fire trine, but it still somewhat looks like one, right? When you look at the chart itself here, okay? Now, a few other things that are taking place here. Okay, now it's all starting to make sense. Mercury in the 12th, Venus in the 12th, Mars in the 12th. Mars in the 12th, past life enemies coming through as men. When you have Mars in the 12th house, when I say past life enemies coming through as men, again, you know, I don't want to, you know, put fear out there and for you guys to think that men are out to get you when you have this taking place in your charts, okay? But it's just something to pay attention to be wary of, to, again, you know, kind of have at the back of your minds, right? Past life enemies coming through as men. You don't see them clearly. You don't see men clearly. Venus is women, right? Past life enemies coming through as women, as feminines in your life. But I just keep seeing psychically this man that was involved in her life, okay? And then Mercury is going to be past life enemies coming through as siblings, okay? So here's the thing. When I say past life enemies, I don't mean that they're always out to get you. It's not always going to play out like this, but it could literally be like, you know, this person is jealous of you, or this person is here to cause chaos, or this person is here to distract you or throw you off your path. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Right? That's kind of what I see it as. So, you know, she got a lot of things going on here, and she got retrogrades taking place in here too. Saturn 4 house retrograde. So Saturn 4 house, that's a challenging upbringing on its own, right? You know, the person usually does get parentified, which is so wild that I said that she seemed like an adult in that video. Okay. Maybe she was the one that was bringing in the money, okay, to the family. Sometimes, not always, I have to say that, right? But sometimes Saturn in the 4th can manifest or play out as like, again, the child feels like they have to pay for the family, or they take on the financial burden of the family, or they have to elevate the financial status of the home and of the family line. So sometimes that can be Saturn in the 4th house, right? Saturn in the 4th is interesting because then it opposes the 10th, right? That's kind of what pushes the person sometimes into the public eye. It's interesting to me because Saturn matures usually around age 35, 36. So probably, okay, now she would would have been 37 and literally she's 36, she would have started making more public appearances. Okay, it's that Saturn opposing the 10th house. Okay, so sometimes again, these dark energies, they see the soul, they see the trajectory of the soul. But here's the thing, it's still up to the person to not open up their energy fields. I'm always going to say that. You have to be very, very careful in terms of, you know, if you're doing substances, if you're doing anything, right? Stress, you know, certain people that are in your life, all these types of things. And I have to do a separate video on that, but I have a few already on my original channel as well. One of them is called How to Stay Grounded as a 12th house person, right? Which could pretty much apply to anybody who is a little bit more psychically inclined, right? So that's kind of what's going on here. I do think she would have started to either gain momentum again after age 36, because Saturn matures around age 36. The way that I see Saturn is like it puts the energy on a lock. When you first start to see Saturn get a little bit easier is around the first Saturn return, especially when you have this energy Saturn in the 4th and it's opposing the 10th, right? Usually around the first Saturn return is kind of like where you kind of start to see like what will your career be, or you know, what is the path in this a lifetime, okay, in terms of like the public image and the public life, right? That's usually what that first Saturn return will kind of give you a glimpse of. Around that first Saturn return, okay, you basically start to see kind of like, again, what should you be doing in this lifetime? It kind of starts to, you know, become a little bit clear, okay, first Saturn return, and then you start working towards Saturn. Saturn matures around age 35, 36. That's again when it starts to get easier and you start to see the full-blown rewards, and like the official full-blown rewards of anything Saturnian, even your 10th house, midheaven, all these things is going to be by the time you reach your second Saturn return. So you had to have been working toward whatever the Saturn energy is here, usually the 10th house. So in her case, because it's opposing the 10th house, right? The way that I see this energy psychically, any Saturn energy, it puts you on a lock for whatever reason, right? So Saturn's in the 4th, working through home issues and all these things, right? Puts you on that energetic lock. So it's like pulling you out of that 10th house, if that makes sense, right? And then again, you grow older, you know, things get easier with Saturn. You learn the Saturn quote unquote lessons, you clear whatever karma Saturn kind of locks you into, right? And then, you know, you kind of go toward the other energy where it kind of starts to loosen up the grip. It's just the way I see it psychically. And now in her case, right, because it's, yes, Saturn in the 4th, but it's opposing the 10th. So again, after 36, it's just the way that I see it psychically. Other people might describe it differently. Okay, that's just my own opinion. She would have started to gain more traction age 36, which is so interesting. That's literally when she, you know, published this book, right? She was 36. In the years to come, she probably would have gotten more traction for this book. But again, they probably didn't like that she was being too loud and all the things that she was talking about. Okay, here it says key topics covered that she talked about: postpartum depression, substance abuse. Okay, so there it is. So she did deal with substance abuse. Now, what I've noticed with people who struggle with substance abuse, trigger warning, huge trigger warning here, is a lot of the time they come from some sort of sexual abuse in the early part of their life, okay, because it's all in the sacral chakra. So some sort of sexual abuse, whether it's covert, overt, okay, some sort of trauma that takes place there, okay? And it's interesting because she mentioned literally trafficking in one of her interviews, okay, even though she was a little bit older, but it's probably would have started way before that, okay? Child acting and industry pressures, and then domestic abuse and personal relationships. Even the whole child acting thing, like, again, I feel like the whole industry is created so they can like pry on children. I mean, honestly, this stuff isn't even made up anymore. They literally had the information come out about the files. So again, she probably would have started naming names, okay? She probably would have started naming names of certain people, because in the book, from what I know, from what I saw in that clip, it was like an alias, or she didn't want to give like the direct name or something of that sort. So she was headed in that direction, which is really interesting to me, and unfortunately got kind of cut short here, okay? And again, they're going to blame it on this. This is why you guys have to be very careful again, right? Because all of these things, it's kind of like when they say anything you say can and will be used against you, that kind of thing. Same thing, anything that you do, right? Any information that you give, right? Even her being like open about the substance abuse, yes, right? It's great for other people who struggle with that. But again, now they're going to use this for sure. They're going to be like, she relapsed for sure. She was struggling with mental health. That's kind of what led to all of this, which I don't think so. I'm telling you guys right now, I don't think that that's what it was. I keep seeing that man. It's a younger man, like maybe around her age or like in his 40s or something of that sort. Not like an elderly man, okay? So that's kind of what I'm getting here. And then the other thing, okay, so her nodes were also being hit, okay? Her north node is in Aquarius. Her south node is in Leo. Her south node is with the sun. This is really interesting because I just did the reading on Perez and he had this same energy, the south node with the sun, karma with the men, okay? And even Saturn retrograde, he had that in his chart too. Absence of the father figure early on in life, mental, emotional, or physical absence. And then also the south node being with the sun, it's karma with the father from a previous lifetime. And then men, right? So there's karma here connected to men. And keep in mind, the Mars was in the 12th house, past life enemies coming through as men here. The Mars is here. This is all in her own natal chart, by the way. It's a little further out. This will be out of sign, right? In terms of the conjunction, it's about 16-ish degrees, so it's pretty far, but it's catching my attention. So here's that energy again, okay? Past life karma around men, masculines, okay? Because the south node here, again, super wide. This is very, very wide, very, very wide. But again, she's got Mars in the 12th, it's already in the chart, and she's got the south node with the sun as well. So karma around men. It's really interesting because something that I've noticed usually that happens with people is like they tend to have people around them, and the people that are around them, in this case, this like masculine that I keep seeing, right? It's like they get worried that the person, let's say, who has the light light, or who is on this path of, like, in her case, speaking up, okay? Because there's definitely stuff going on around the throat chakra, because she is a 3-day number as well, okay? 3-day number meant to master the throat chakra, speaking, communicating, and so on and so forth. And it's like the people around them, you know, it's interesting how they turn out to be an enemy, because it's like they get worried that, you know, the person with the light is going to expose them, okay, or something of the sort. So it's like they kind of try to reverse the energy, and they try to either, again, you know, bring the person with the light down, or again, you know, something negative happens, like something of the sort takes place where it's like they don't want to be exposed. So it's like they reverse the energy, but like they have to find their way into that person's life as well. But it's like the light always wins in the end anyways, right? Because now all the attention is on her, and I'm sure people are going to start digging, right? So that's kind of what's going on there. And it's interesting, Pluto's in the second. This can be struggles around self-worth or powerlessness, power control issues around sometimes the self-worth or people towards you, because this is going to be generational for her, always engaging in these power and control dynamics. Okay, I feel it in my solar plexus for her. This could also be like power and control around money, you know, feeling financially bound, okay, probably again contracts or other people she was involved with or something of that sort. One final thing that I do want to mention here, okay, before I wrap up this reading, is her 11 life path. Okay, interesting, high vibrational number. Again, 11 tends to be someone who is of influence, right? You'll see a lot of politicians have this, right? Someone who is able to like garner a lot of influence, right? It's another spiritual teacher number, like that's absolutely there. It's a master number. And here's the thing, when you're not operating in your highest vibration of 11, you go down to 2, which is all about, you know, fairness and like relationships and that Libra type of energy, right? She's even got Venus in Libra. So like, you know, again, you kind of go more into like that people pleasing energy. It doesn't mean this in numerology, by the way. That's just how it feels to me, the 2 energy, right? It kind of gives me that Libra energy. So I do feel like she was like overcoming this, right? Kind of trying to reclaim her power, come more into her truth, open up her throat chakra, and she probably would have been speaking and talking more. I mean, she already started, right? It's kind of what is going on here, and she would have garnered more traction, right? So again, this is something that happened more so from the astral. Again, I don't think this is something that was premeditated or something of that sort, like directly, if that makes sense. It's basically like frequency control through another person who opened up their energy field. Is kind of what I'm getting here, okay? That's pretty much what I'm getting here for this reading. I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you guys enjoyed my reading on Hayden Panettiere. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you guys subscribe to my original channel, Barbara Talks, as well. And if you guys would like your own reading, you guys know where to find the information below. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day.